Deputy General Secretary Bheki Ntshalintshali. Thank you for joining us, Bheki. Are you now acting General Secretary?
Yes, indeed. In terms of the Constitution, in the absence of the General Secretary, the Deputy will resume his responsibility.
All right. If you look at the history and the news reports, a very simplistic assessment of this is that Vavi was very critical of the ANC. A rift started to develop, the other members like yourself closer to that party, and yet you defied the ANC in firing Vavi. Why?
Look, there's no evidence that those who disagree with Vavi are disagreeing with him on the basis that they are closer to the ANC. There's no fact that can prove that the remaining office bearers are closer to the ANC. We are independent organizations who are guided by our own constitution and our policy. The ANC relationship with us is a relationship of two different organizations. So we take a decision as we deem fit in relation to the Cosatu processes. Of course, the ANC, and not the only ANC alone, including the former leaders of the Federation, realizing the difficulties that the Federation was going through, they were making a contribution to ensure that there's a unity in the Federation. Unfortunately, the process has been slow, and in the meantime, the General Secretary has been acted in a manner that undermine the particular processes and behaving above the organization and doing more damage to the organization.
There are so many people who would refute this. Willie Madisha, Carl Klute, the head of NUMSA, says they left because Cosatu wasn't independent. They weren't allowed to have their own views on the ANC. So are you saying that Cosatu is independent of the ANC, even though you are, of course, part of the alliance, and it creates tensions?
Look, when Willie Madisha, for an example, was expelled based on his behavior above the organization. So he was expelled. When NUMSA was expelled, it was expelled based on the principles and the violation of the Cosatu Constitution. So it's not based on the issues that they were distant from the
their non-support of the ANC didn't count.
In their resolutions towards the ANC before they were expelled, they were the one that supported. When the President Zuma was to take his second position, they were the first, NUMSA was the first to say they support the ANC. In our Congress, in which they participated in 2012, they supported the ANC. So there's not true in it that those who are remaining, they are guided by the same resolution that were taken in the Congress, supported by all the unions in the Federation, including Vavi, including NUMSA.
Vavi changed his tune. There was a big turnaround. Let's just talk about what now for Cosatu, because you've expelled NUMSA, the biggest union. You've expelled, you fired Zwelinzima Vavi, who does have a following. This may force him closer to NUMSA, to the other workers' movements under that united front that started last year. Can Cosatu survive, or is it a stump of what it was?
Look, Zwelinzima Vavi has been closer to NUMSA. His decisions of not supporting the collective and the majority decision of the Federation in supporting NUMSA, who was violently violating the principles of the Federation. So when now he moves to say what you think is bringing him closer, it has been obvious, has been supported him. When he took his case to fight the Federation, he was supported by NUMSA. The lawyer that are taking his case now, the cases of the lady who was dismissed in Cosatu, fighting for a right that were violated by Zwelinzima Vavi, the lawyer that he used are the lawyers that NUMSA is using. So the distance between him and NUMSA has been regarded all along as being the sympathizers of NUMSA. The challenge for the Cosatu now as we move forward is the unit of workers and workers to unite to be able to take their issues on the shop floor to fight for a living wage. The public sector is now involved in a huge negotiations. So the future, always, you wish for the best, but the future is unknown for anyone.
unions always say this, we're going to fight for workers' rights, we're going to go into the next strike season, the next wage negotiation season strong. Your very survival, would you agree with me, is threatened here. Those unions who suspended their membership may not now come back. You're facing competition from AMCU as well as your former affiliates.
Yeah, we need just to put into perspective. The union who are alleged, boycotting the participation in Cosatu is not true. The union have said they will still remain the Cosatu affiliate. They will going to participate in Cosatu activities. The structure that they will not participate to is the Central Executive Committee. So if you take, for an example, the unions are participating in NETLEC, where we're negotiating and we need their wisdom in NETLEC, in engaging with government, in engaging with business. They do participate. Where the meeting of the General Secretaries a week ago, General Secretary of Union are participating. We have our provincial structures. Those union structures are participating in Cosatu. The only issue that they said and they've been raising is that when they go to the Central Executive Committee, they find a little joy, and in that effort, they want to boycott. We're engaging them. We're engaging them. We're telling them it's better to come home and raise your issues within. Two of the unions were part of the group are back in Cosatu, which is a good sign for us, and we hope that the remaining unions will come back to Cosatu.
Okay, but there is surely a possibility, a high probability that they may be lost as well, that they may leave and align with NUMSA. My question is, I think Cosatu is just, like you said, facing a very uncertain future. Is there anything you can do to get back some strength? Something surely needs to be done very differently.
We'll talk to those unions as we always do and remind them that they are the founding unions of the Cosatu. Two of them were there in the founding of the federation. The rest of them have joined lately. Their importance, irrespective of how big and how small. Others are less than 600, but we regard them to be important in Cosatu. Others are less than 6,000, they're important in Cosatu. Others are big. We treat all unions equally. Our goal is to have one union, one industry, one federation, one country. And that goal is at distance as we speak it now. So any division, any kind of a division is a big threat to the unity of workers, including Cosatu. So that's what we're going to be striving for. And we're going to be crossing our fingers, talking to every worker to say there are principles, there is a constitution that need to be adhered at all times. And there will be no future of any federation that does not uphold to his own constitution and principles.
All right, thank you very much for your time this evening. That was Cosatu's Deputy Secretary General Bheki Ntshalintshali, now Acting General Secretary.